Well, I'm pretty excited about this week's show because it's at my house. I get to eat home cooking. And more importantly, there's a wonderful baby tarpon bite going off. And I said, you know, I'd really like to go do a little show on that and kind of show people, you know, that this is going to be all about baby tarpon. And I go, man, I don't know, you know. And about that time, my phone rings, and it's my buddy Nate Ramasini from the Keys. He said, what's going on? Because he's got a camp up here in Chokoloskee where he comes on the weekends a lot of time, fish camp, right down the street from me. And he said, what's going on with the bite, man? I said, it's going off, man. Baby poons everywhere, snook, fishing's great, inside, outside. He said, well, I'm thinking about coming maybe this weekend. And I said, how would you like to do a show on baby tarpon? He goes, I'm in. You know, typically when we film a show, we leave about daylight. You notice that we'll be, you'll see us backing the boat in and all that kind of stuff. And I told the guys, I said, listen, I said, the game's going to be over by then. I said, baby tarpon, when the bite reduces, the higher that sun is in the sky, the less chance of catching those fish. And so I said, you know, we may have a bite till about 9:30 max. But I said, we need to be there in position when the sun comes up. I'm with my good friend, Nate Ramasini this morning, and this is kind of a non-typical start to the show. Usually you see us launch and run and all that. This morning, hopefully, we're gonna try to catch some baby tarpon. And we had to come under the cover of darkness just to get here in time, because once that sun gets up above these trees, party's over. So with all due haste, I recommend we go catch them. Y'all stay tuned, this is gonna be fun. There he is, Nate.
There you go.
That's so cool, man. Oh! And that,
Kiss of death.
and
Reach for the net.
That's typical, man, because if they start jumping, they usually get off. You just put it right along the seam there.
He was hooked up pretty good.
You want to use the 8 or the 7?
I'll try that one.
There you go. Your turn, bro. Now, with baby tarpon, the hookup to landing ratio is terrible. These things are little missiles. They're little acrobats. They got a very, very hard mouth. You can have a hypodermic sharp hook, and everything's got to go perfect for you to land one of these little guys. But all that being said, I'll be honest with you, if I get 2 or 3 jumps out of one, I'm like the little kid in the candy store. I mean, you know, I don't know if they're going to show any of this footage, but I mean, I was giggling like a little kid. Got it. Nice. That never gets old, dude.
No doubt.
Work him over here to the right. Go to the right.
There he goes.
There you go. 3 jumps and done.
That was awesome. That's the perfect size.
It is perfect size. They're in here anywhere from 1.5 pounds to about 40. When you hook one of these rascals, they are in the air immediately. Now, that created some problems in this spot. There wasn't 1 or 2 or 3, there were about 5 gators in this spot. And they come to the noise. And that's how they make a living. When, you know, all of a sudden there's nothing, and then they show up. So you've got to be really, really careful. Number 1, protect yourself, because if a gator grabs your hand, I don't care what size it is, and it starts that death roll, you may get your hand out of there, but it's going to look like hamburger. Or, most case scenarios, he's going to have your hand, and that is not good. So you've got to be diligent. You got to have all the sensory, you got to have everything going on.
The Gypsy Angler with Ray Van Horn is brought to you by Ranger Boats, still building legends one at a time.
A tarpon, I don't care what size they are. I think, boy, I got a deal going with either snook is my favorite or tarpon is my favorite. And if I had to make that decision, because they're both super, super cool for me, and that's why I live where I live, because I just got to have both of them, and that's why I live here. One minute I'm kind of leaning, but you know, these baby tarpon in the backcountry is a whole nother deal. They're anywhere from this big up to about 40 pounds. And to quote a friend of mine, they're manageable. Now, if you got a 100-pounder or an 80-pounder, or even a 70, 60-pounder back there, he would just thrash you. He would just whoop your butt because the environment is just conducive to him getting off. But you can manage these smaller fish on a 7-weight. You could probably even do it on a 5-weight. But you've got a little more backbone with that 7. And I alternated between a 7 and 8. I had 2 different flies rigged up, and I'd grab one, grab the other to see what was more effective. But you can go really, really light. And you're not going to get these long screaming bonefish runs or anything like that, or you know, that a big tarpon outside would do. But you know, it's all 4-wheel driving, man. They lock in the hubs and they're pulling to the trees. So you've got to have a great delicate rod that makes a delicate presentation, but still has that backbone where you can pull him out of the trees. Oh, that might have been a snook. Come on.
There he is. I saw him on it. There you go. Dare I grab the net?
Yeah, buddy. A little, but not bad.
Water's so dark you can't even see him.
All right, buddy. You're probably wondering why we're using a net. The reason is because of all these gators right here. This would be a really good way to lose your hand trying to get one.
Keeps them wet longer.
It does. Look at that, Nate.
That's beautiful.
They're gorgeous. Right in the beak. Finally. Absolutely stunning little fish. We're gonna go ahead and put him back.
Nice work.
These are delicate fish for the most part. You really got to be careful landing them. And I said the best thing for everybody concerned, including the fish in this situation, is to take a net, wet it first, make sure it's got rubber coating on it, and we'll scoop the fish. And it's amazing how tranquil they got once they were in the net. It was beneficial for everybody concerned.
Find it.
Right as soon as I wet loaded it and sent it coming. There you go. Come on.
Going for the hook test.
Get out of there. Get out of the tree. Got my little net that little guy so we don't get any gator action. He choked it.
There we go.
Now that one ate it. That's the way you're supposed to do it. Nate, I tell you, it's just, I don't know how many we've had swing at it, and we've only put 7 or 8 in the air. I think the lack of tide and everything is just, you know, problematic, but we finally got another one to the boat anyway.
I'd say 1 out of 5 are committing pretty good when they do.
Let's go ahead.
This is the end result.
Let's go ahead and try to get the hook out of him. Pretty cool little dude.
Beautiful.
I'll tell you what, it's just a cool little animal.
The Gypsy Angler with Ray Van Horn is brought to you by Mercury Marine. Go boldly.
Did I mention the alligator thing? All right, so this one tarpon goes absolutely ballistic. He's jumping all over the place, then all of a sudden he's screaming towards the trees. Leaning on him, he jumps, and of course he winds up in the trees. Now he's thrashing around, he's hung up in this bush, this mangrove bush, and he's not getting out of there. He's thrashing and jumping and thrashing and jumping, and we're starting to ease toward him to get him out of the tree. And I look off here to the right, and Elroy, the alligator, is full steam ahead, heading to that fish. He's got like the buffet napkin on, he's got his knife and fork, he's going, that's my dinner right there, boys. I got him, I got him, I got him.
All right, stake him back out.
Put him in the net. All right, I got the
I'm gonna bring him
net.
this side. I'm gonna bring him this side.
Good news, tarpon's out of the bush. Elroy didn't get the tarpon, but the alligator's right here and I got a landing. So we quickly scooped that fish up and the alligator kind of sauntered off a little upset. You've got to remember that that prehistoric dinosaur has been on the planet forever. And he makes a living in so many cases ambushing its prey. Nate, I'll tell you what, when you're creek fishing, especially when you're fly fishing, it can be a battle, dude.
I like to call it guerrilla warfare.
It is. It's not for the weak of heart, but I love it, man.
That gator was spectacular.
Speaking of gators, where is he before I put my hand in there?
He's right behind us.
Dude,
That one got it going.
golly. It ain't always pretty when I get involved, but it's fun. So I say, how about we go throw some plugs?
Works for me.
Try
Go
to
find
catch a
some
snook or two, yeah. You know, tide is tide is tide. And lack of tide, I don't care where you are, is not that good. And we're in a situation, we're in between tide cycles, and these fish they just weren't feeding right now. We ran to a number of spots. I've got, I don't know how many hundred spots back here, maybe 1,000 spots or better. And you can't fall in love with any of them because these fish have fins and tails, and it's all about water movement. And they can be there and they're not going to cooperate. That's just the way it is. Now, it's more problematic on snook than it is tarpon. The tarpon, I feel the lower the light with some current, the better off you are. The snook, they have a smaller bite window and it's all tide related. So you're thinking, okay, what am I after? Where am I going? What am I going to do? And basically sometimes, as in this case scenario, there's an early bite and then there was a later bite. And that's just the way it is. There he is, Nate.
Get him. There you go.
There he is, buddy.
Comes the gator.
Better one.
You smacked him hard. Let's see if he stays hooked up. We're good.
How about a net?
Get the net. Moving my rod right there.
In the scoop, baby. All right. Cool deal. But a lot of people would say, why did you come back here? After spending about 2 hours this morning in here. And we had a pretty good morning. We jumped a bunch of fish. Just reel it. There you go. Oh, you still got your bug.
No, I got my pop.
But the deal is, the tide this afternoon is a lot stronger. In the back of my mind, I said, that's going to create probably the best opportunity of the day. Well, they're eating real small fry in here. And we're just burning these cattle shads on the surface and they're smoking them. I'll tell you what, just a beautiful, beautiful little fish. What do you think of that, Big Nate?
Think he was ready to go?
The Gypsy Angler with Ray Van Horn is brought to you by Bob's Machine Shop. Go fast, go shallow, go efficient. Power Pole, shallow water anchor.
First thing in the morning, I started off with a 7 weight. And I think something that's kind of cool about these spots we're fishing is that I've got a whole arsenal of different length fly rods and different actions. And I'm using a moderate action with a fairly soft tip. That precision is more important to me in a delicate cast than a distance situation. So I'm using a rod that's only 7 feet 11 inches long. This particular rod is designed for fresh and salt water. I'm using Cortland's Guide Series, Tropic Guide Series. Has a very balanced taper, lays that fly out nice, and it's a very delicate presentation compared to the Tropic Compact that I'd use to shoot a lot of line on the outside. And then I've got about a 50-pound bite tippet. And the first fly that we chose in the morning, I don't know if I'd call that a gurgler, but what it does, it pushes a lot of water, makes a lot of fuss in the water column. If you're a bass guy, you go, that's like a square bill crankbait, okay? It's erratic, it's got a lot of flash, and they ate it okay, but they were missing it a lot. So when I started seeing that, I said, you know, something that didn't sink real fast, but had a little more depth to it. And in so many cases, depth control is really critical, and I don't care what you're fishing for, sometimes that is a big deal. And then I went with this minnow imitation. It's slightly weighted, got a lot of crystal, what I call crystal flash to it. I guess you'd call that a Palmer chenille material, and then some craft fur. And when this gets wet, it gets a lot, it's not nearly as bulky looking, okay? And there are brush guards tied on both of these flies in the chance case scenario that I would put it in a tree. That helps get the fly back. And in a lot of cases, you had to be tight to cover. Later in the day, we switched it up and went to spinning gear. Medium action with a fast tip, and that allows you to make accurate casts. We're using a cow shad, a DOA cow shad, on a short shanked DOA super premium hook. Got a wide bite to it, increases your strike to landing ratio, and this is a wonderful, wonderful pattern almost everywhere you go, but it's really effective in tannic water, especially with snook and tarpon. Nate decided to use, and this is a color that I use outside, inside, all over the place. This is a dark green back, again, with silver flake, clear silver flake. And they ate it about equally as well. So having one or going into a situation like that, always have multiple colors tied on, and the fish will tell you what they want. That was weird. He was right up on. There he is.
Got him on.
He was floating. It's a snook.
Oh my God. Nice one.
Hold it, dude. Dude, there's a tarpon floating, and I brought it past that tarpon, and that snook just smoked it.
You can feel the difference in the water temp back here.
Nate, I'll tell you what, it's been a fun day. It's been kind of crazy. You know, not a bad snook to end the day. I'm gonna go ahead and turn her loose. I think we'll go get us a cold drink and call it a day. Oh, Lord. Dude, thank you. If you want to optimize your success ratio and your chances, it's nice to be able to fish both tide cycles, a falling tide and an incoming tide. because one is going to be dramatically better usually than the other. And we all want to start early, and I love to start early, and I like to finish late, because that way I know I gave it every minute that I had. A big shout out to my buddy Nate Ramasini. So glad he came over and we got a few hours on the water together. Appreciate you, Nate. Thanks.